Before the Industrial Revolution, this was a totally rural community. Huddersfield was a market town, and textiles were a cottage industry in the true sense of the word. And people had to struggle for a living here in some of the bleakest and most remote parts of England.
The men wove, the women spun. And there we get the name homespun, for this was done at home. In these very houses, women and children were spinning. There was a demand for beautiful materials. A great industry was in its infancy, but growing rapidly.
A plentiful supply of clear, soft water was essential for scouring the wool and cloth and for dyeing. The larger streams and rivers supplied valuable water power for scouring and fulling the cloth.
The Industrial Revolution forced the cottage and village industries together into factories and mills. It mechanized many of the processes, it created whole new supporting industries, and resulted in the vast sprawl which is now the heart of the world woolen textile industry. The mill machinery that they use hasn't changed much in 100 years. And the principle of cloth making is practically the same as at the time of the Industrial Revolution. Huddersfield is famous for its worsteds, and to produce the fine yarn which distinguishes worsted from ordinary woolens, the wool has to be sorted by hand. It takes a 7-year apprenticeship to develop the touch. The men on the machines need the same sensitive skill.
Giant carding machines of today carry out on a larger scale and very much faster that delicate work of the hand carder of older times. Every fibre selected by hand, levelled out piece by piece, requiring the utmost patience and skill. Still carrying on the process of straightening the fibres, the gilling machine also reduces the wool in bulk. The sliver is progressively reduced until it is ready for spinning. Every thread is handled just as gently as in the old-fashioned method. Spinning is drawing out the wool and twisting at the same time into a continuous thread. Now that the yarn has been properly twisted, it is wound into hanks by reeling onto frames. A job for slick movement and dexterity. The dye house works continuously with frequent changes of colour, of which there are many shades.
Weeks and months were spent on colour testing, colour matching, and colour classification, a laboratory job of long patience and exactness. Modern science and machinery enable an infinite and subtle range of colours, in all their gradations, to be produced for every type of fabric.
Now the yarn goes through a massive drying oven with regulated temperatures. The hanks are fed in at one end on spindles and taken out from the other.
Winding onto cones must be done with great care. These operators have inborn skill in their fingers, and their ancestors helped to produce the woolen goods which laid the foundations of our industry.
Miles and miles and miles of knitting yarn in every weight and colour you can imagine, winding continuously onto cones, working through 2 shifts every day from early in the morning until late into the night.
Think of warping and weaving as rather like darning mechanically on a very large scale, using a shuttle instead of a needle, and you'll grasp the basic principle involved. The warpers assemble the vertical threads onto a weaving beam. The weavers put in the weft or the interlacing horizontal threads. The beams pass from the comparative quiet of the warping to the renowned clatter of the weaving shed. The action of the shuttle can be seen more clearly in slow motion. During its passage across the loom, the shuttle attains a speed of over 30 miles an hour.
The automatics are a bit quicker than the old hand looms, and a damn sight noisier, but the principle's the same.
These girls are menders. A 60-yard roll of cloth may take up to 3 weeks before it's finished. Every knot must be removed, every piece of yarn that's too thick must be pulled apart, and any thread that may have been broken in the looms must be sewn together again.
All the knots which have been lifted are brushed up and shaved off on a cropping machine. The percher runs his keen craftsman's eye over it to make sure it's perfect. Nothing less is demanded of best Yorkshire worsteds.
Modern machinery brings to the designer new techniques, a new medium, and a new convention for his artistic impulse. His patterns must always be beautiful, but he must consider them in 1,000 ways, as coverings perhaps, or as drapes. And they must be designed with knowledge of materials, knowledge of the machines that will weave them. With his design in front of him, the pattern card maker stamps out the holes which will guide a myriad of colored threads. It takes a couple of days to set up these spindles. They interlace in infinite variety, yet with perfect precision. The new methods permit unending variety of designs and cloth structures. They gleam and they glow. In houses and homes, you may thank craftsmen and tradition for a world made lovelier by pattern and color. To furnish the world.